I wanted to talk a little bit about playing softly today. And softly to me is not necessarily quieter. It's more of a texture. It's if you just take it out of a musical context, I mean soft actually means a texture. It doesn't mean a dynamic. But typically mean we typically think of things like dynamics as just raw volume. So just the amounts of pressure coming at your ears. So I want you to I want to convey that a better way to think about a lot of the markings in classical music are not quantitative, but rather qualitative. So even on something like a tempo marking, like a really common one, allegro, we just tend to think quantitative, it's just fast, right? Well, I mean, allegro means merry or jolly, and I tend to think merry means more like jovial or drunk or something like that. And so again, it's a qualitative thing. So getting back to dynamics, I mean, forte means well, let's start with piano. I want to think about forte in another video actually. Piano means a textural quality, so something softer. So the first thing I do when I think of a piano passage is sort of lighten up my left hand more than anything else. So perchance I'm sort of playing mezzo forte, my fingers are hitting the strings sort of in a secure way. Well, if the music says piano, when I see that indication, I sort of lighten my left hand up first before I think about anything else. Now, I think the first 5, 6, 7, or eight teachers I've ever had, piano meant you bring your bow and you just go, and you take it all the way to the fingerboard, and that's all you have to do. It's just like this. It's a mechanic gesture that you just, oh, it says piano. Okay. Bow is the fingerboard. That gets you where you need to go. Well, I actually don't think you want to go to the fingerboard at all. If you're in a concert setting, there's very little room in the instrument where the instrument's speaking in a very with a good sonority. What I mean by good sonority is like the note starts and ends with real clarity. And if you're in a concert hall or even in a recital hall or a living room, a chamber concert, you're absolutely want your notes to have a quality that is has integrity. So just to bring your bow to the fingerboard, you basically get out of that quality zone and you get into the zone where the instrument doesn't really resonate as nicely. So let's start with the exceptions. I mean, if you're playing a piece like Debussy and there's 1,000 indications that I can't remember exactly what this passage is written like, but let's pretend that Debussy in a passage writes something like molto espressivo, pianissimo, so two P's, maybe some other indications of sort of as it comes, or take ad lib your take your time, or take as much gesture as you'd like. This could be a passage, for example. So I'm playing towards the fingerboard, and this is, like I said, an exception. So that was sort of splitting the difference, and you can take it to extremes with impressionistic music. So it's just sort of like a hollow sound, and that works for certain exceptional music. And in certain cases, you want to sort of take a passage and really make it stand apart, do things like that. But let's take the exceptions for granted for a minute and get back to just principled piano should not be on over the fingerboard, unless the composer says so. Like the composer, I'm doing a piece right now by Eugenie Zai, and Eugenie Zai writes a few times over the fingerboard, and they know how to indicate to musicians what they want. So just wait for those indications to be there before you just assume that piano, fingerboard. No. So how does one play piano? Well, I would suggest you keep your bow in the same spot for good sonority, and all you do is, instead of, say, I don't use a lot of big bows when I play typically, but so let's say for mezzo piano you're using, you know, eight tenths, four fifths of your bow, and then it says piano. Well, perhaps the passage that's repeating itself. So I would do maybe half that amount. So there, all I did, you probably could hear a huge difference between those two passages. But all I did is lighten my left hand. I made my bow just made my bow less engaged. So I didn't change the sounding point. I didn't really go towards the finger. I didn't go towards the fingerboard, but I also I sort of felt I knew exactly where that passage was, so I knew that it's just going to be less bow, and that conveys a lot less volume. And probably instinctually, I lightened up my left hand. I typically do that, like I said. So this is an example again. It's more of a pianissimo version of that. And I think it's effective. You don't have to work too hard, and you don't lose the sonority. And finally, I want to say that, well, pianissimos, when pianos are indicated, do think more texturally. Don't think volume, and also use that as as sort of a touchstone to treating classical music more qualitative generally. So when you see a sforzando, when you see allegro, presto, look those words up, because you'll probably come into a great realization that these words actually mean more of a qualitative thing in Italian or in French sometimes. And I think this will be a sort of open your world to a new way of approaching the literature, at least, and playing.